republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can everyone hear the mic okay? It's very subtle. Thank you all for joining us tonight. The members of the Budget Committee held 20 public meetings to work through line by line Brentwood's more than 40 department budgets. Committee members are Elena Arita, who's not able to be here tonight, Anthony Phillips, Anthony, we're by yourself, well done, Gabby Kelly, John Morgan, our Select Board representative, Letty Bedard, our School Board representative, Michelle Seward, our Secretary, and I'm Jack Mitchell, Chair. Being taxpayers ourselves, we've taken these budgets seriously. I believe it will be obvious from this presentation that the committee's work has been thorough and its recommendations are in the best interest of maintaining what we have in Brentwood, while at the same time planning for future needs. Our purpose tonight is to present the town and Swayze school budgets, warrant articles, and citizens petitions with financial implications. Also to provide the budget committees and select boards recommendations, and to hear public comment. Long ago I had a boss whose good advice was, when looking at finances, to start with the bottom line. So let's do that now. Combining appropriations for the town, Swayze school, and co-op budget result in a 3% increase of $718,000 compared to the prior year. That would be a $387 tax impact on a $400,000 property. We'll talk more about tax impact later, but keep in mind it is not the same as tax rate. That's the bottom line. Let's see what was done to get to the bottom line. To do that, we'll start with the town operating budget, then the town warrant articles, the Swayze operating budget, and the Swayze warrant articles, and finally we'll touch on the co-op budget. So first up is the town operating budget. It's made up of 40 departments, each with their own budget. The total of those budgets is the amount on this slide, also known as appropriations. The change is the dollar increase in comparison to the prior year. The percent change is 9%, and this reflects inflation in our costs as well as growth in our town. The tax impact of $280 for a typical $400,000 property is in comparison to the prior year. $400,000 was chosen because it is close to the Brentwood median assessment, which is $371,500. The format will be the same for the slides that follow. Are there any questions about the format? You all were here last year then, okay. We can come back later to any slide if you can identify the subject or the title or the number. Okay, so the question at this time is, what is in the $520,000 increase? This is an important slide. It accounts for 75% of the increase. The departments are listed in descending order by size of dollar increase. I'll read because I'm not sure everyone can see, although I think you can see pretty clearly on the screen tonight. The largest increase is in healthcare, which is up 39% due to a 15% increase in rates and changes in employee selections. To mitigate future increases, we are exploring joining a teachers group which has lower rates. Second largest is police, up 10% with a new full-time officer, new software, canine support, and increased prosecutor duties. Highway is up 7% with salaries, vehicle repairs, and new building utilities. Government buildings is up because general building maintenance has been consolidated here. General government is up 70% to include a grant writer, absentee ballots, and $20,000 for unplanned events or disasters. Library is up 7% with salaries, books, and media. And finally, insurance is up 15% with increased rates for property and liability, especially fire, and workers' compensation rates. The next slide has smaller increases, which I'll read quickly. It's basically snow and ice, welfare, recreation, fire, waste disposal, the election, and rubbish collection. The next two slides have even smaller increases, which I'll come back to later if there are questions. There is no change in funding for these departments. They're level funded. And these departments have reduced funding. Our capital improvements program was a guide for the warrant articles. All the warrant articles are forward-looking capital reserve fund proposals. The capital improvements program, known as CIP, looks ahead 6 years to target and allow time for funding for big-ticket items. It's updated annually, always 6 years out. This plan is posted by the planning board on our town website, our new town website. Our goal is to maintain what we have in Brentwood and to plan ahead for future needs. To our operating budget, we need to add the town warrant articles. They are reduced 26% from the prior year. So what is in these recommended warrant articles? The warrant articles are listed here, again by decreasing amount. All amounts are going into capital reserve funds, CRFs. This slide represents 100% of our recommended warrant article cost. Some regular items will be voted on as a group to consume less time at town meeting. Highway at $150,000 is saving for the 3 new plow trucks needed over the next 6 years. Fire at $50,000 is pursuing a grant for a tanker with aerial capability at $1.5 million. If there is no grant, there will probably be no truck. This capital reserve fund will also support other fire vehicles. Maintenance of town buildings at $50,000 was squeezed last year, and this year will include work on windows and possibly a furnace for this building. A new capital reserve fund has been established for radios, for first responders, and for public safety. The remaining warrant articles have smaller increases, which I'll come back to if there are questions. This slide restates our largest department budgets. Since budgeting is an expression of priorities, this is actually a list of our priorities. Again, largest to smallest. Police for security, highway for transportation, fire for safety, benefits to support our town employees, rubbish disposal for a clean community, library for information exchange, debt principal and interest. The remaining debt principal we have due is $600,000 for the fire station, $500,000 for the purchase of land and easements, and $250,000 on Prescott Road, for a total of $1.35 million. The $3 million bond approved for land and easements has not yet been tapped. The total of these 7 budgets is almost 80% of our town operating budget. Next is the Swayze School operating budget, which is up 6.3% this year. Plus the warrant articles to authorize an $850,000 bond for solar panels, debt service to initiate the bond, $21,250 for that. And there are 2 that will come from unreserved fund balance, special ed and a technology capital reserve fund. The overall Swayze budget for warrant articles is up 6.6%. Finally, we come to the co-op school operating budget. The total proposed for all 6 towns is $68.5 million. Brentwood's share, thankfully, is only 15%. In the 3rd row down is Brentwood's 15% share. There is a 1% decrease for all towns. So combining town, Swayze, the co-op, this brings us back to where we started, the bottom line. The grand total of proposed expenses is $24.2 million, which is an increase of 3% over the prior year. If the co-op default budget is voted, the increase is smaller, 2%. Tax impact does not equal property tax increase. Tax impact is based only on appropriations, that is, anticipated expenses. Tax or tax rate considers appropriations and revenues. Revenues offset some of the appropriations, reducing the property tax. Revenues may come from the federal, state, or local governments, and they also come from new properties which generate additional income. Over the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2023, revenues other than property taxes have offset more than 25% of our annual appropriations. Tax impact assumes revenues are the same for both years. However, revenues have trended upward. This upward trend reduces our taxes. Increasing property valuation assessments, think new property developments, also reduce our taxes. Total assessments for the town have increased an average of 1.6% annually since 2020. So what does our tax rate history look like? First, let's look at inflation. From 2020 to 2023, inflation increased a total of 18%. During the same period, our tax rate increased much less, 1.47%. We have benefited from the effect of increasing revenue and property valuations. Our tax rates dipped a little in 21 and 22, then moved up a little in 23 for that overall increase of 1.47%. As an example, I have randomly selected my own tax bills to compare 2020 and 2023. Note the assessed valuation remained the same during that period, meaning I made no improvements. Our tax rate increased from 23.19 to 23.53. So the tax for this property over 4 years increased $123 or 1.47%. You can confirm this using your own tax bills. Please note, on February 20, Steve Dawson will be presenting to the Select Board more information on the important effect revenue and other factors have on determining our property tax rates. Okay, now, what are some of the real items included in these budgets? In the town budget for 2024, we have roads. There are 67 miles of roads in Brentwood. They last 20 to 30 years. The $350,000 allocated is enough to resurface just 2 miles each year. Beyond that, new developments will soon be adding even more miles to be maintained. While roads are expensive, that sunset in the distance was free. As mentioned, 3 new plow trucks at almost $300,000 each will be needed over the next 6 years. The $180,000, thank you, Steve. The $180,000 here is mostly for salt, but the sand price is up and it has become harder to get. With the additional police officer, staff is now 13 full-time, but there is still an officer safety concern from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. when only one is on duty, alone. The Fuller easement with the town contributing $250,000 continues to move forward. It includes another nearly $190,000 contributed by Southeast Land Trust and others. This one, for $500,000, needs no introduction. From the county, for $600,000, we get a sheriff, county attorney, and corrections. This one also needs no introduction. And finally, as is well known, Swayze School recently was recognized for its excellence in education. Credit to the students, staff, parents, and school board. So why is this a budgetary issue? Because what is not so well known is that they did it with the lowest cost per student for any town in SAU 16. Again, credit to all, because that is an average savings of nearly $2 million each year to the taxpayers of Brentwood. Swayze School and the town of Brentwood have much to be proud of. So what do we have for recommendations? The Budget Committee and Select Board recommend at town meeting voting in favor of the town operating budget and warrant articles presented here tonight. A citizen's petition for publicly funding a private newsletter is not recommended. The Swayze budget and warrant articles are also recommended by the Budget Committee. They are not reviewed by the Select Board. The co-op budget is not reviewed by the Budget Committee or the Select Board, and it will be on the March 12 ballot. Please keep in mind, we have only addressed budget expenses and estimated revenues here. The state will assess revenues, credits, and changes in the town's valuation to establish our actual tax rate. In conclusion, I know you've been waiting for this part. We've reviewed 2024 budgets recommended by both the Select Board and Budget Committee. We looked at tax impact versus tax rate. We reviewed our tax rate history and reviewed some major items of cost. Please note the meetings yet to come. All are at Swayze Gym. School district meeting on March 6th. The town meeting on March 12th. I'm sorry, the town election is on March 12th. I didn't change that date. And the town meeting is on March 16th. And there will be child care provided at the town meeting, I think starting at 8:30. We believe our committee's work has been thorough and its recommendations are in the best interest of maintaining what we have in Brentwood, while at the same time planning for future needs. Now we'd like to know your thoughts. We're open to questions, comments, whatever. The microphone here. Yes, sir. There's a microphone up here.
That's okay, I'll speak real loud. Town operating budget. The budget approved at town meeting in 2021 was $4.4 million. That was an increase of almost 6.5% over the previous year. In 2022, we approved at town meeting $4,926,000. That's an 11.8% increase over 2021. In 2023, we approved $5.5 million. That's an increase of 12.17% over the previous years. We've gone up 6.5% and then almost 12%, and then again, last year, 12%. At some point, we're not going to be able to afford these increases. I know you look at the budgets from looking in at the trees of the forest, but no one steps back and looks at the actual forest and says, hey, over the course of a year, we have increases that we may not be able to afford. Does the budget committee ever step back and look at the budgets from a forest standpoint?
I think the committee as a whole takes a look at all aspects of the needs of the town, the current needs of the town, and the future needs of the town. There's some room for opinion within that, but that's the judgment of the committee.
Liz Faria, South Road. I have several questions. I'll start with, it was my understanding this year that Select Board Chair recommended a 3% increase to salaries and a 2%, up to 2% merit. So I'm wondering how we have a building inspector salary who's going up 6.5, a deputy clerk and deputy tax collector that's going up 13.7, a clerk in the town clerk's office and a clerk in the tax collector's office going up 10.44, a fire administrator who's going up 20.23 to $123,953. I'm not sure about the police because it's combined. The police admin is combined for over $205,000 for two people. I'm wondering how the 20.23% increase doesn't equal 5%. I don't understand how that happened. Do you have any idea about that?
I don't have any individual informations.
Okay. Next question would be, how does...
If you need that, if you want more information on that, I can try to get it.
Okay, I just wondered why we said something like 5% and nothing's 5%, almost nothing, and this is 5%.
If you would, Liz, just send me an email with what you have for information there, and I'll follow up on it.
That'd be great. I'd also like to know, you said on here that you're going to combine, or the select board's going to combine several warrant articles to make it move faster, capital reserve warrant article to make it move faster at town meeting.
Yes.
How is that determined, and is that legal?
It is legal, and it was determined by the select board that they wanted to group certain warrant articles that have passed historically on a regular basis.
Can you tell me which ones those are?
Yes. Who's got that?
And while somebody's looking for that, you can maybe answer my next question, or this would not be so much, well, maybe for the budget committee. Did the budget committee disagree with anything that the select board proposed this year in terms of money?
In the end,
Not in the end, anywhere through. Did you disagree on anything?
not as a board, no.
Salaries, benefits, warrant articles?
We felt what we received was reasonable, what we got from the select board.
So everything came out,
At some point, we are certainly free in order to disagree.
but it just
But
didn't happen this year.
if it appears reasonable.
Okay. Are they combined?
The ones that will be combined are IT hardware, revaluation, which is by contract, maintenance of town buildings, fire vehicles, and maintenance of town-owned bridges.
Okay, so if
That totals $180,000.
okay, if a resident had an objection to one of those being in there, say, fire vehicle, how is that addressed? Like, you've dumped them all together now, and, I mean, revaluation we have to do, so that's kind of a no-brainer. And IT, I'm not sure about that, but suppose there were residents that were opposed to something that you put in there. There's no, they can't vote for or against it, because maybe they're for the other things. I mean, I don't understand. Usually those warrant articles pass pretty
Well, the
quickly.
reason they were grouped is because they have historically passed readily as individual warrant articles.
I disagree that fire vehicles pass quickly, but that's okay.
So, just, we had the same question, and we were told that you could, somebody could make a motion to change just one of those sublines if they wanted to, just like you can change the number on any other warrant article. And if that change passes, then that would be the new number that would be.
It just seemed interesting to me that the ones that usually don't take any amount of time are grouped together. They're not the ones that take a long time.
That's fine, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
there is a, you don't have to vote for all of them. If somebody feels strongly that you don't want to do one part of this, you want to change one of the numbers, there is still an opportunity to do that.
Okay, so that's good to know, thank you. I think this is my final question. If the select board, the bottom line is the bottom line. So if the budget passes, the select board can change anything in that budget they want that's not a specific warrant article, correct?
That's my understanding.
So in other words, if the town votes again to support a newsletter and the select board doesn't like it, they can say, no, you can't have one. If the, I understand that they put the $350,000 for paving the roads into the operating budget. If they don't want to use that for paving the roads, they could do it for a new road or something. Because it's the bottom line that counts, right? They can move all that money around.
That is the way it has always been.
Okay, thanks.
Hi there, Jen Jones, Select Board Chair. Liz, I can answer a couple of your questions. In the fall, when we go through the budgets at the Select Board, it takes weeks. We, over like 8 meetings or so, we go over each of these budgets. And each of those line items, Liz, that you had questions about, we talk about every single one of those at those meetings. The salary adjustments that do not equal the 5%, some of those are our adjustments, like the town clerk and in the town clerk's office, those are an increase in hours. Some of them are wage adjustments based on the market. So each one of those was discussed at the select board on an individual basis when they were outside of the normal 3% plus 2% COLA and merit. And so anyone can look at our minutes, or they're welcome to watch the videos, or next year come to our meetings where we discuss every single one of those in detail.
Thank you.
Two quick questions. Your fiscal year ends December 31st?
Yes, the town's fiscal year ends December 31st.
Do we know yet what our actual expenditures were this year without warrant articles?
We knew what the expenditures were. Yes, I believe we do.
Yes.
Because we use that to consider what was appropriate for the warrant articles.
Do we know what that number is?
It will be printed in the town report, which will be available on March 6th, the Tuesday before the election.
Okay. That's all I got.
I don't know if everybody heard that, but it will be printed in the town report, which is available on
March 6th.
March 6th. Yes.
Hi, Eric Turk, Big Drive. Just a quick question. One of your slides, you mentioned that we receive revenue from the county. And I was curious, because this question's come up for me, is that standard disbursement from the county? Is it because we're the county seat? And do you know how that all is determined?
No, that was misinterpreted.
Okay.
We don't receive money from the county, we pay that $600,000.
Oh, okay, that's more what,
That's
that's more what I thought.
the sheriff, the attorney, and corrections is what we get for the $600,000.
What do we give?
We didn't have a fire, we had to get to have a county home and supply their fire.
Yes, flooded fires.
That's what we use. Doesn't have for a long time.
Other
I think it
questions,
should be-
comments?
Hold on, I have one other thing. I'll just for you again. I understand that we're putting in another road at the VRC. that's not being voted on. That's a decision that the selectmen made, I believe. And that money's coming out at the end of the year. I think Mr. Burlow might have been talking about that. That's coming out at the end of last year's budget, correct?
Yes,
The 900
Yes.
and
yes,
whatever it is.
yes, and that's a safety issue.
97,000.
That's a safety issue. If you have been here at the rec center on a soccer weekend or for National Night Out,
And-
or for the beach program, and it's dark, and there are cars
Yeah,
moving.
I don't know if you decided on this or the select board, but do you know how that came about? Like how that got started, that whole discussion? I was curious.
I only understand it as a safety issue.
But somebody had to bring it to the board, right?
Nobody brought it to
The rec.
No, it
The
is
rep
not,
brought it to,
But it
Select
didn't
board?
come to the budget committee at all.
no.
because it doesn't, it's just old money, it's not new
Yes.
money.
It's our money.
Well, that's what I mean.
Come on.
Our old money, we already spent it.
That's the select board addressing the safety issue. Any other questions or comments?
Well, is this posted on the website? Will this be posted on the website?
That presentation is on the website right now.
Oh,
If,
good. Are you having
if Andy's got the recorder turned on,
Are you having a meeting after to discuss?
Who's that?
Usually you have a meeting after.
Yeah,
If
the
there's no-
details changed, but there are none.
They're not changes, I guess, there's nothing to discuss.
If there are no further comments, thank you for your attention, and the meeting is adjourned.
Please put away your chair.